is at would become this giant transmedia production school and facility that could become basically another Hollywood, but one that honored God and that was independent of Hollywood, but had the chops and the finances and the resources and the talent that Hollywood can muster. And so, it's right there on the island. Then David flew, I flew out there and he said, "Man, tell me this can stand in for ancient Israel." So we drove around in his truck and I looked at it. I was thinking, Hawaii, beaches and palm trees. I mean, I didn't have it in my head that it could pull it off, but as I drove around that island, incredible diversity of climates and regions and zones and everything I'd studied on ancient Israel, I said, "David, this could really work. I mean, you could definitely pull this off here." And so they decided to push forward on that, and so now they have raised enough money to break ground on several enormous new transmedia facilities that are being built there on the Big Island, sound stages, studios. And that's where Day of War and the Line of War franchise, we're calling it. My 5 novels, they're making 3 movies based on these novels, and they're just going to crank them out one after the next in these facilities and on the island. And it's been, there's a lot to that. That's kind of the Reader's Digest version. But at the end of the day, I get to sit back and see where me on my laptop in a Word document and watching God take it from that all the way to this. And it's just the unique privilege that I get to see him taking credit and guiding every step of the way from the beginning to this point. So that's the latest on that. Like I said, this week they've got bulldozers out and digging the dirt to build these facilities. And South Korea has come on as a very strong financial partner. A lot of businessmen there have committed an enormous amount of money of the film's budget. And it just continues to be exciting. And it all began with a random group of Kansas Cityans that stepped in at the right time, and Guy and Mitch that led the way. And that's how God did it. So no one can get credit but him. That's how I see it.
And Cleve, you might just connect to just the YWAM into South Korea.
Right.
And for years, that these businessmen now that are stepping up with multi-million-dollar checks were kids that were ministered to by YWAM.
YWAM poured a lot into South Korea over the last 50 years, and I would probably, after having been around it a while, I would say that that's the country that they have poured the most into. And Lauren himself will say we just always felt like that nation would be a huge player in what God's doing in the earth. And in the ashes of the Korean War, that has been the case. They have a roaring economy. It's a very Christian nation. That the world's five of the world's 10 largest churches are there in South Korea, and you have just through the Cunningham connection in YWAM, there's been an enormous amount of relationship and network building that they've had. And yeah, like Mitch said, there's a lot of businessmen that they've been pitching and talking to that are they're enthusiastic because they remembered when they were young men and Lauren coming to them on the beach or wherever they were at and pouring into their lives, and they now have been blessed with the resources to make this happen. And David's going to be back there. He's been several times the last 2 months. He's going back next Wednesday to sign some contracts on some big funding. So again, it's stunning, but it's working. I mean, it's actually working. So that's what we're excited about.
And on the movie, basically, there's 3 kind of financial buckets, if you will. Monies that are committed in the bank. There are monies that are committed that are in process, meaning some people liquidating some major